politicians collude with big corporations in order to maximize the profit at the expense of the ordinary citizen. So today we will discuss this Wikileaks document that reveals Big Pharma is behind the TPP. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. This is the kind of deep intel that you get at the Money GPS. And let's begin right here with, of course, Greece, always the talk of the news. S&P just downgraded Greece yet again. We have lowered our long-term sovereign credit rating on Greece to CCC from CCC Plus to reflect our opinion that the absence of an agreement between Greece and its official creditors, the Greek government will likely default on its commercial debt within the next 12 months. So think about that for a second. Within the next year, they're saying they're going to go bankrupt. So we're going to have a major catastrophe throughout Greece, throughout Europe, throughout the world within the next 12 months. That's what they're suggesting. There is obviously going to be drastic measures taken in between now and then, but certainly we have much to worry about. They downgraded them yet again. We all know that the rating agencies aren't really much anymore since the financial crisis, where we have seen what exactly they've done with the subprime mortgages, rating them AAA, so we don't really take them into account, but it is important to listen to what they have to say and see where this all goes. One more article on Greece here, as we talk about anxious Greeks pulling the money from the banks amid fears of capital controls. This individual in this article actually uses the word bail-in, that they fear that. 2 weeks after Greece's left-wing Syriza party won at a general election in January, this individual pulled his deposits from this Athens bank. I felt certain there'd be a confrontation before long with the Troika. And this individual is one of many who have done this. They basically take the money out and stuff it under their mattress, or perhaps they invest other places around the world. But a lot of people just simply took the money out and stuffed it under the mattress. They didn't feel comfortable putting it anywhere else because they're losing faith in the banking industry altogether. And this is happening as a global phenomenon where we have seen this occurring right before our very eyes. Let's move on to this. Bonds are obviously a big issue. We have Greece, their bonds, and others in Europe obviously taking a deflationary spiral. The global deflation trade is unwinding with a vengeance. Year on the 10-year bonds blew through 1% today, spearheading a violent repricing of credit across the world. The scale is starting to match the taper tantrum of the mid-2013 when the U.S. Fed issued its first gentle warning that QE would not last forever. And I just wanted to note here that paper losses over the last 3 months have reached $1.2 trillion. This is a huge number. Obviously, it is not much in comparison to how much is out there, but it's still a very significant factor. Much more about the bonds here in this article, but I had too much to get to, so I want to move on. Look at this. The XBI has outpaced the SPX by 3.5 times since 2010. So we have the Biotech index versus the S&P 500. The S&P 500 has done considerably well since 2010. Yet, look at the Biotech, which has gone skyrocketingly high, where we see it going 3.5 times higher than something that has been on fire, which is the S&P. So this is going to show you how hot these certain sectors can be at some points. Now, certain individuals have made a profit off of this. So should you get in and make a profit? Well, even Warren Buffett has said the stupidest reason to buy a stock is because its price is rising. You do your own research and figure that out for yourself. I see this all as something that is way, way too hot. In my book, I discussed many topics, one of them being the use of printing money and deficit spending in order to make back the shortfalls for what has happened within the economy. Government intervention may work temporarily, but ultimately it would just make matters worse. But the politicians, basically, they have to come up with these short-term solutions in order to get things back on the road again, because they're not willing to have their second terms and all of this stuff. They only have a 4-year timeline. They have a certain bunch of things that they need to get done, and oftentimes don't get to finish in time because they have all of the red tape like Obama has, but he's trying to get around that now by just signing memorandums and executive orders. The result is a destruction of the currency over time. The decline of the US dollar is a direct result of failed government policies which ignore reality. This decline is the most recent example of an empire losing its strength and influence. That is very accurate to what we are seeing, not just in the US, but others as well. This is it out of the New York Times, where they discuss the Wikileaks article, the big news for today. Facing resistance from the Pacific trading partners, the Obama administration is no longer demanding protection for the pharmaceutical prices under the 12-nation TPP, according to this WikiLeaks section here. The American negotiators are still pressing participating governments to open the process to set reimbursement rates for drugs and medical devices. Later on here, they say that it was very clear to everyone that except the U.S. that the initial proposal wasn't about transparency. It was about getting market access for the pharmaceutical industry by giving them greater access to and influencing over decision-making process around pricing and reimbursement. Very important. It's all about the profits for the big corporations. This one happens to be big pharma, but not exclusively so. This is just the amount of information we are able to see at this time. The WikiLeaks happened to get this piece of data. We're bringing it out there, and this is the reality of exactly what's going on. These individuals within the pharmaceutical industry are all interconnected in with the government, particularly in the US. They're saying that it's going to empower pharmaceutical firms to command higher reimbursement rates in the US and abroad at the expense of the consumers. That's exactly what I just said throughout this video. Let's move further into the article, where they say that the agreement will increase the cost of medicines worldwide, starting with the 12 countries that are negotiating the TPP. This is very accurate. This is true. This is what we are seeing today. And it has gotten a lot worse just since Obamacare has been put into place. And now with the TPP, is going to be astronomical. And what does this do? If your country gives quote unquote free healthcare, it's just going to apply a larger burden to that country. More billions of dollars being spent on that, which means, in one hand, less money for things like education or infrastructure or whatever have you, and it's going to be funneled towards not the individual who needs the pharmaceutical drugs or the surgeries or anything else. It's going to be towards the profit for those companies. That's what's happening right here in this particular instance. And then we have this disparity that has been going on all across the world, where you have the elites, the people that are interconnected with the big pharmaceutical companies, the big bankers, and so on. And then you have basically everyone else. Federal Reserve policies launched its historic economic slump may have exacerbated wealth disparities in the U.S., according to the Philadelphia Fed. So the Fed actually admits this, exactly what I'm saying today. Monetary policy currently implemented by the Federal Reserve and major central banks are not intended to benefit one segment of the population at the expense of another by redistributing income and wealth. Okay, now think about what they just said. We don't do this money printing thing to benefit the rich, to benefit the elite. That's not what we're doing here. But then in the next sentence, saying, however, it's probably impossible to avoid the redistributive consequences of monetary policy. So right here, they backhandedly admit that, yes, what we do is give money to the elite, but we're not doing it on purpose, we swear. And this is the kind of lies that we are exposed to on a daily basis. You can't avoid this type of data. It's right in front of your face, where you see the redistribution of wealth taking place all at the hands of the people in the Federal Reserve or the other central banks or the big bankers or those in the big corporations or the lobbyists or anyone interconnected with that, none of them are working for us, the individual citizen. It is always for these big corporations. If you found this video informative, please give me a thumbs up. I have so much more information to get to. I want to get into some very simple videos. In fact, what is a bond? What is a central bank? What is a this and that? And bring out the information at the simplest levels too. Not very often, because I know that many of you, in fact most of you, know all of this information, but I want to create a course for people, a free e-course that anybody can learn from, and it doesn't get into the deeper intel like we discussed today, and that will slowly but surely pull them in and asking more and more questions. So I hope you'll support me on that as I go through those. If you want to see the free e-course, you can go to my main channel page on YouTube and just scroll down there and you will see the free e-course for yourself. So if you found the video informative, please give me a thumbs up. And last but not least, if you found this video informative, I know that you will find my book, The Money GPS, even more informative. And you can actually look through the book if you go to the Amazon page there and you flip through it for yourself. You can see if you like it. Take care.